Hey everyone, and welcome back. It is time for another reading wrap up. Today we're going to talk about all the books that I read in the month of May. So I read a total of 7 books in May, which I actually was surprised I ended up reading that many because May was a very busy month, especially on the work front, the day job front. There was so much going on and a lot of kind of like transition and things shifting and changing and just a busy time of year. And so with all of that, I really didn't think I was going to be able to read very many books in May, but I somehow ended up with 7, and we're going to talk about all of those today. Now, several of the books that I did read in May were from the TBR that I picked at the beginning of the month. I was pretty good about reading my May TBR. I got through 5 of the 6 books that I chose for that TBR. So those 6 books, by way of reminder, were Flame Theory, Tides of Time, The Chase, Dreams and Dragon Wings, Girl Lost, and If All Else Sails. Of those 6, I read all of them except Flame Theory. Now, I really do want to read Flame Theory. It is another dragon book, and of course, I love dragon books. So I'm hoping to get to that one as soon as possible, but it just didn't work out in May. It was kind of a chunky book, and with everything else, it just didn't quite make it into the month. All right, let's kick it off. These are in no particular order, so these aren't ranked or anything like that. I'm just going to go through all the different ones that I read. Some of them are mysteries, some are fantasy. We got a couple of contemporaries in there, a historical, so a nice mixture of a lot of different genres, which was really fun. So first we have Never Fall Again by Lynn H. Blackburn, and this is the first book in the Gossamer Falls series. I've been hearing so many incredible things about these books and other ones that Lynn has written, and I finally had the opportunity to read one of her books, and I was definitely not disappointed. Though these are categorized as like romantic suspense, I would say they're more heavier on the romance side than on the suspense side. This book actually felt very cozy. It was like getting to hang out with your friends. It was such a good story and a good time. I would say it was more character driven than plot driven, and those characters were amazing. The people that you get to know in this book, I can't wait to read the rest of the books in this series so I can spend more time with those characters, with the families. Lynn did an incredible job with character development, that is for sure. So in the first book, we're following Landry Hutton and former Marine Callum Shaw. And there is a bit of a mystery that's going on in the background that is seeming to target Landry. And they are trying to figure out what is happening, why is somebody after her? And along the way, Landry and Callum get to know a lot about each other and their histories. And there's a lot that happens in both of their pasts that are really impacting where they are currently sitting, and their view on relationships, romance, marriage, all of that is really being impacted by their past histories. But I don't want to go into too much detail and accidentally give anything away, but again, these characters were great. Landry's daughter was the most adorable kid ever, and it was so much fun getting to know the characters and their families. And like I said, this book is just so cozy. It's almost like a warm hug and just spending time with close family and friends. So I would definitely recommend this, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the series. Next we have If All Else Sails by Emma St. Clair. This is the first book that I've read by Emma St. Clair, but she's been on my list for quite a while, and I've been very much looking forward to reading one of her books. This was a very fun time. I really enjoyed the 2 main characters. They're actually quite different from each other, and there is so much base level misunderstanding between the 2 of them. It was very interesting seeing how that was impacting their story. But it says on the back, in this enemies to lovers romance, school nurse Josie and her brother's best friend, hockey player Wyatt Jacobs, are tricked into spending a summer together that's anything but smooth sailing. There was a lot of humor in this book, and there were several times that I actually laughed out loud during certain circumstances that would happen because those scenarios were just very funny. So lots of humor, not really actually a lot of hockey in this, even though he is a hockey player. It's talked about, but it's not like heavily on the hockey side. It was actually a lot more about sailing. And that's not really a spoiler because a big component of this book is them going on a sailing trip together. I will have to say their chemistry together was really good. Emma St. Clair did a great job kind of building their relationship from that foundation of misunderstanding that they start off with. all the way through the rest of the story. And it was a lot of fun getting to know both of their characters and just the circumstances that happened. It was a great time. I would recommend this book, and I'm looking forward to reading more by Emma St. Clair. For those who know Ashley Willingham and her fantasy books, I was finally able to read Dreams and Dragon Wings, and I really enjoyed it. This is a gender-flipped Sleeping Beauty retelling with dragons, and that was a fantastic touch. And there's also fae in this as well. Our main characters are Aurelia and Benevolence, and both of them were fantastic. Benevolence is actually the dragon. Aurelia is the fae, and in this book they are called jewels. Throughout the story you could definitely see the different nods to Sleeping Beauty, but it was also very much its own tale. Ashley Willingham took this story and made it her own and made it into something that was a lot of fun. There was quite a bit of faith elements in here. There were things that you could definitely see that crossover for sure. And that's a theme throughout all of her books. She has very heavy faith themes throughout all of her fantasy. There are 2 other books that are fairy tale retellings that I'm hoping to read as soon as possible. I would really like to read both of those. And then she also has a longer series. The War of Crowns is the first book of that. Would love to read that. And she has a new book coming out this month as well, which is very cool. But yes, I enjoyed the fantasy. I enjoyed the fairy tale retelling. The characters were great. Their history from the time that they were very young until they were grown up, and their connection to each other and their love for each other. It was so neat getting to see that throughout the story, and it really was a fantastic time. If you haven't read an Ashley Willingham book, I definitely would recommend checking out her stories. And another romantic suspense I read was The Chase by Lisa Harris. This is the second book in the U.S. Marshals series. Now, I talked in previous videos about The Escape, which is the first book in this series, and how much I enjoyed it and how it kind of leaves off on a bit of a cliffhanger that leads into this next book. So this picks up not too long after the events of that first book. And kind of like the first one, there are threads of an overarching story that's going on throughout the series, mixed in with an entire mystery that they solve within this one story. I definitely am not going to talk too much about this because it's the second book in a series, but the mystery was very well done. You do get a few more pieces of that overarching mystery, and it is setting up at the end to really take us down the road of what is happening with that bigger mystery. There was also something that happened in this book that was actually pretty surprising to me. I was not expecting that, so that caught me off guard. But it was so much fun getting to spend more time with our 2 main characters, Madison and Jonas, and more of their adventures. In this one, the mystery that they solve in this deals more with a bank robbery situation and kind of who is behind it and why, and figuring out how to bring these people to justice. So yes, I really enjoyed book 2, and now I'm excited to get into book 3. I'm hoping I can read that this month in June, if at all possible. But if you saw my June TBR, I have a huge list of books to read, so we'll see. But I do want to finish this pretty quickly because I'm just waiting to see what's going on with this larger mystery, and I can't wait to get into that. Next, we have The Tides of Time by Sarah M. Eden. This was the first book I read by Sarah. So I read a lot of first-time authors in the month of May, and I enjoyed every single one of them, and I'm hoping to read more books. Same can be said for this one. This was a really interesting premise because of the time travel element that happens and what it is that's causing that to be able to happen. In this book, our main female character is actually propelled forward through time into a new place, and she must figure out what is going on and how to navigate that. She starts out in 1793 in revolutionary France, and she's a big player in some of the events that are happening during that time period. And then she finds herself 80 years later in a totally different place with a totally different environment and people that she's trying to get to know and figure out what happened to her and why did it happen and what is she going to do about it. And this is a romance as well, so in that new location and time that she finds herself, she actually meets our main male character, and his name is Armitage. They start off on a little bit of rocky ground at first. He doesn't know quite what to make of her, and she doesn't know quite what to make of him. And given that she was just tossed forward through time, that is more than fair that she's trying to figure out what's going on. It takes her a while to even realize what happened. And now there's this guy and there's this lighthouse and there's all these mysteries and her trying to figure out what is what. I really enjoyed some of the mystery element as well and how those threads were tied together at the end. And like I said, the time travel was really fun. I enjoy time travel books and they're always super complicated, right? Because you can't have time travel without some complications. And seeing how that was handled and having the elements of mystery mixed into it just made this a very, very fun read. There's more books. I know there's at least one other book in this series. I don't know if there's going to be even more or if there's others I'm missing, but I know there's at least another one that is this same basic setup where there is time travel involved. So I'm hoping to get that and read that because this one was so good and I'd like to try more by Sarah M. Eden. Next we have The Roads We Follow by Nicole Deese, and this is the second book in the Fog Harbor romance trilogy. I read the first book in this series, I think it was 2-3 months ago, and I absolutely loved it. It was so incredibly good. And Nicole Deese did it again with the second book. Just an amazing story. This book has a lot to do with family at its core. A lot of the questions posed, a lot of the things that are overcome, a lot of the planning for the future and the ties to the past. It was very much grounded in family for this story. And it's really fun because it ties in a road trip, it ties in journals, music, writing, almost everything is pulled into this. And some of these things are some of my absolute favorite things. I love to read. I love to write. I've been a musician since I was little, and so I love music. And the fact that all of these elements were in this story was really, really fun. And it was country music on top of that. I'm pretty eclectic with my music, but I do really like country music. I grew up listening to country music, and so having that tie-in was really neat as well. And of course, there is a romance. This is Fog Harbor romance trilogy, so there's going to be romance. Our two main characters were fantastic. I adored both of them. So the two main characters are Reagan and Micah. Their stories were pretty incredible, and it was really cool because Nicole Deese handled some themes around like some miscommunication that happened on occasion or misunderstandings that would happen. And she handled them so well in a way that was not at all frustrating, because sometimes miscommunication can be very frustrating depending on how the story is done, but this was very well executed. And I wouldn't say that that's the heart of it. It wasn't like miscommunication all the way through, but when those elements did happen, it was very, very well done. But there's a lot of themes around love, family, reconciliation, and discovering who you really are and what you're meant to be and what you're meant to do, and having family at the core of that. So this was great. I really enjoyed it and would highly, highly, highly recommend this trilogy. I cannot wait to read the last one in this series. And finally, we have Girl Lost by Kate Angelo, another romantic suspense. Of the romantic suspense that I've covered in this wrap-up, I would say that this one is definitely the most thriller-esque. There was a lot more thriller elements in this book, and there were quite a few things that were rather intense as well. So just know that going into it, this is not a cozy mystery at all. It is more thriller, and there are some pretty heavy themes in it as well. So in this one, we're following our two main characters, Luna and Corbin. This had such an interesting start to their backstory. It was something that I never would have expected, and it was very cool. That lead-in, those first couple of chapters that really established who they were and their past, that was wonderful. I enjoyed it so much, and it was just very unique. This one was pretty fast-paced. Like I said, it's very thrilling. There was a lot going on. I really liked it. I thought it was very, very well done. I've read another book by Kate Angelo, and that one was a spinoff of the Elite Guardian series by Lynn, and I loved that book. But this was really, really good. I enjoyed this so much, and she has another one coming out that has to do with the same family, and I can't wait to get my hands on that. That's going to be so much fun. There are really, really strong themes of found family in this one, like definitely found family, and how incredibly tight those bonds can be. So another great read, another one I would recommend, and looking forward to more by Kate Angelo. And that's it. That is everything that I read in May. It was an incredible reading month, even though it was a busy month. I hope you're able to maybe find some good recommendations from the books I covered today, or if you have read any of these, let me know your thoughts below. I would love to hear them. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate you all so very much. And as always, remember to keep following your dreams and believing in the magic of this thing called life. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.